front that money for us.
Right.
Again, for budget purposes, we don't have to come up with that right away, we can
Right.
work it into a grant or a loan in the future.
Something that wasn't mentioned, a lot of the PR or PER info that will be taken in, Curry has a lot of that just because they did previous work with us, and all of our televising and everything, that was all done with Curry when we was on our agreed order.
Do they have the data?
They've got a lot of it. Everything that we did with Eco, I mean, they pretty much have 75% of that data already. I mean, I was just throwing that out there. They've got quite a bit of.
Who are you recommending?
Yeah,
You work with them, you've met with them,
but also like Jason, but you,
The only people we've really dealt with, I mean, just from my experience here with the town, has been Curry. Now, I'm not trying to sway you guys. I mean, that's your guys'.
asking your opinion.
But as far as who I've worked with out of all the engineers that's been here has been Curry, which they did great work with us. Now, I'm not saying that, BLN's pitch, I like their pitch, I like HWC's pitch. I mean, they all had very great pitches to them. It's just, I mean, really, whoever's gonna give us the best.
Jason, who have you worked with?
Brian Bullock that was with BLN, I worked with him, but he was at Midwestern before. So I know him as an engineer. We were very pleased with him when he was at Midwestern. Never worked with BLN personally. Worked with Curry, always been pleased with Curry. Worked with HWC, been okay with HWC. I have never worked with Commonwealth. But I will say the one thing that Commonwealth that has brought to the table is the whole DNR project, which is potentially huge for us.
Yeah, that could be a lot of revenue. Plus,
Yeah.
they're persistent. I mean,
They're pretty impressive. I assume they're probably all gonna do the same job for you.
Been here, I think this is the third time, maybe.
Commonwealth has been to several meetings.
And their prices changed every time they came.
It's also possible that that could be a separate project as well. They've done some work. We did video conference with the head of DNR and Commonwealth, Al, the president that was here tonight. And they put some legwork into this DNR project. So
I just got a gut feeling it's common.
yeah, well, I'm not saying anything good or bad, but it could be two separate projects, or two separate engineered projects too.
Yeah.
There could be the DNR project, and then there could be what we actually have currently. So I'm not saying you have to select one to do.
Don, you had a question.
I can tell you from my personal experience in the town of Cloverdale that both Bob Curry and Associates have done an extensive amount of different work for Cloverdale in their wastewater treatment situation over the years, as well as some water issues. And I believe they were the ones that engineered the water and sewer line that went out to 243. Commonwealth has also been involved with the wastewater treatment plant, collection system, etc. And I believe in my office I've got reports from both of these engineering firms from 20 plus years ago when they were involved in making a similar type of presentation. The sewer lines haven't changed that much, and they sure as hell haven't moved. But we got to reevaluate everything to tell us where the heck we're at the present time.
I've worked with everybody but Curry and haven't had any trouble. And if I've had trouble, it's been resolved amicably. And I was, well, first of all, listening to 4 engineers in a row is brutal.
Yeah.
But,
And they're all selling the same thing.
Yeah.
well, they're all capable of doing it.
Oh, yeah.
One day it kind of caught me off guard is HWC's willingness to float the bill.
DER, yeah.
That was kind of a nice touch.
Yeah.
I agree with Brad about Curry and their knowledge of the system. What I think would be interesting is to ask all of them to submit a letter of what they would charge us. Because if HWC can do it for 40, and BLN does it for 40, because they already have everything.
They have some data.
But if they come in at 40,
And they're gouging us.
yeah. So let's
Maybe
give everybody a
that's-
chance to submit a letter and we'll open up the next meeting.
Let's do
Jason,
that.
Jason, can you?
Because they're
ask-
all capable of doing it.
Ask them to give us a
Letter of
PER
intent.
quote or?
Yeah, just here's what we'll do it for, and
Yeah.
we'll open it up at the public meeting and not before.
And,
Because ultimately, they're all gonna, they could all do it.
they'll charge us, but, you know, like,
And also ask each of them open up an equal plane, will they
will
front the
they
money?
float it? Yeah.
Will they float that?
And we'll just ask them to submit a letter, and we'll open it up at the June meeting.
Okay.
If they want the business and they're willing to float it,
I would
then,
encourage
you know,
them to get the price clear.
Well, that sharpened their pencil.
Yeah.
right.
And because, you know, like I said, I haven't worked with Curry, but Brad is okay with them,
Yeah.
then I'm okay with them.
Yeah.
And they can all do the work. So, and this, I think we've heard tonight that, you know, we're not made of money. And we gotta watch every dime at every opportunity.
Didn't, Curry do the Woodside Way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this will give everybody a chance to show us how much they
Show
really
what they want,
this.
what
Yeah.
they wanna do for us.
Yeah, as opposed to picking one of them tonight, and then they come in with a $80,000 number.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Let's do it
Okay.
that way.
All right, sounds good. We'll do that. You don't mind, Jason?
No, that's fine.
Super, thank you. And
I
thank
mean-
you for getting them all here and all.
The only concern I have potentially is they're gonna wanna know what the scope is, and we're gonna need to give them all the same,
We wanna put them on an equal playing field.
the same
And
skills.
that's
Sure.
where we wanna go.
Yeah, I mean, we, like Richard
Ultimately,
said, we want it all. I mean, we wanna get,
ultimately, the amount doesn't, and I mean, that sounds bad when I say this. The price tag doesn't bother me that much if there's a difference, because we're gonna use that amount towards our local match anyway.
right,
So
It will matter if
But-
they don't get approved.
right.
correct,
But I would like to
correct, but
plan,
I feel very confident
I
we
think
can get
we
money.
might all agree that we want to plan for growth.
Right.
So, you know, if we gotta expand our lines too, I mean, that's part of the scope we
Well,
wanted in the PER.
And I spoke with a couple of these engineers, and they didn't bring it up tonight, but, and I don't even remember which one it was, which one
Yeah.
they were now. But, I also threw in the idea, I talked to him briefly, I didn't want to corrupt this meeting and bring a whole new idea, because we'd already had it scheduled.
Yeah.
But Donnie brought it up at the last meeting, expanding our,
Sorry.
or, you know, making some type of water improvement as well.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
And I spoke with whichever engineer it was, and I don't even remember, said this could be the opportunity to throw a water PER in as well. It would be probably a lot cheaper because you're not doing duplicate work. Because a lot of the stuff would be exactly the same.
Yeah.
Now, not the engineering itself.
So there would have to be a PER for water?
If we went in for a water project, and I'm not saying that's a bad idea. We've never seen this kind of money that we know is gonna be flowing our way.
Yeah. Yeah.
If we're gonna do it, now's the time to capture it.
Yeah.
Now, our water utility's in pretty good shape, not only financially, but our system is pretty solid. Our plant is in really good shape. After Don mentioned taking a water line north of town, we do have a 6-inch water line that goes under 70. Doesn't go that far, just goes up to Poet, but that is and you probably know the term better, but it is a fiberglass concrete water line that goes up there that apparently has less of a longevity. And that is something that could potentially be replaced.
Oh, yeah.
We could also upsize that to maybe an 8 or 10-inch line. That would obviously provide a lot more supply if something were to develop up there. So I'm not opposed to throwing a water project in here also. We might get funding for a water and a sewer.
Oh, yeah.
Why not throw in Storm too, though, go for the trifecta.
Yeah. It's something we can discuss next Thursday, redevelopment.
Yeah, but it's a council decision.
Well, I understand.
So the scope would be PER,
Come complete system study or
Yeah.
water,
Yeah.
wastewater.
Yeah, the whole, that trifecta, and I would break it down into the individual and then the full package, or just do the full package.
It's totally up to you. I'll tell you, initially, on this project, I was focused purely on wastewater. That's where our problem really
IDEM
is.
is the, yeah, get IDEM on our back.
We know that has to be addressed.
I'd say separate wastewater and then all three, and just see the numbers.
I can.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd say we could get money on all three, but we're pretty well guaranteed money on sewer just because of our IDEM letter.
Where we're at.
Yeah.
I feel confident we'll get funded.
Okay.
And what I want, they didn't really hit on this. They did a little bit, but on the SRF, that is loans, but big chunks of that can be forgivable.
Right.
We were talking, and because of our water rate, or our sewer rates, they are very, very high. It was actually Curry that we had that meeting with that day. We compared them against what some other SRF programs were doing, and they were forgiving $2-3 million. I'm not saying that's gonna happen for us,
Yeah.
but based on rates, there's potential for that.
Yeah.
I believe that's who we talked to about the water project too.
Is it?
Cause I think it was Leonard, cause Richard came and sat in on that meeting with
Oh,
us on the,
It was, you're exactly correct. It was Curry that, it was on, wasn't even talking, it was about it was our initial contact with this project. So, that's who it was.
I-
Curry is knowledgeable, Jill is very knowledgeable with the programs.
Right.
But you know what, every one of those engineers has a Jill that works for them.
They got a contact.
They've got
a
somebody that,
relationship.
Mhm. Whoever you select, I think would do a fine job.
Kelly, you had some?
I was gonna say, I learned today, actually, that if we're going to use any American Rescue Plan money, and I know that's, just throwing this out here, just so you know, for planning purposes, it cannot be used as an Okra match, but it can be used for the money that the state is getting for the infrastructure. It can be used for that match. So just keep in mind, if we're gonna do Okra, we can't use American Rescue Act money. If we're doing the other one, it's SW, I don't know the acronyms, but we can use the ARPA money as a match for that, and it's a one-to-one match.
If we're gonna have all these firms give us a quote or a bid, should we mention to all of them the DNR opportunity? So they think about Weaver and how that might fold in?
Jason?
Otherwise, it's not gonna be available.
I have,
But I would
I have no
think-
loyalties to any of these firms.
Yeah.
And I would think if they were doing their diligence,
They would
They
have
would
thought
find
about the DNR, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I wasn't sure. I don't know if that's something you can tell them to think about, or they've gotta figure it out for themselves.
Well, but I don't know. How's that play into our DER anyway? Because we're not paying for any of that,
Exactly.
so
It really doesn't need to be, it could be actually a whole separate project.
that's like when this guy comes in and talks about all our TIP districts and our bonds that we have, when he came in for his interview. But he
Well, but
likes
if
that
they're,
project.
I'm just thinking, if that project it helps pay for improvements to our
Right.
storm sewer, then you probably wanna make sure that's part of the study.
Yeah.
I guess Commonwealth has brought this, they are doing 2 of these DNR projects right now, with Spencer and, Brown County. I know that they do have this contact with the head of DNR. I mean, I was on that call. Apparently he's gotten approval for $20,000 for a study for that portion of the project. I don't know if other engineers have that same relationship to be able to get that from SRF. That's why that's why I wouldn't rule out maybe 2 separate projects there. And I'm not saying it's maybe do it all the same. I don't care. I know at least they've done their due diligence to at least investigate, and they took an extra step to do that. But that's not, again, that's not who I'm not recommending anyone, but
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
You want, so, but you're asking Jason to contact, have them each submit a letter
For the
to the open
PER.
public meeting
Yeah.
of what they're gonna charge for a PER for the sewer and a PER for the
Water.
three combined.
Yeah. And I'm still thinking about this DNR thing.
Include I&I?
I&I is part of all this
Yeah.
at every turn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of the head of our project.
Kind of what this is all about.
And the DNR is really just to help pay for some of the things they find.
And couldn't we do that ourselves at some point? We need the engineers involved in that?
But let's get those numbers.
what does that,
I was saying, could we do that as a town ourselves, redevelopment or town council, go seek DNR ourselves?
no,
Could we?
we could, I mean, they opened that line of communication up.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I got an email from them today, they want our rates, and they're trying to make sure it's financially feasible for them
Right.
to do this project.
Okay. So we would need to ask them the charge there, right, if we could kind of do it ourselves? Okay. All right, if you don't mind doing that, and I guess the regular town meeting, we'll open it up, see what they say.
It'd be interesting to see the numbers.
Yeah, it would. It
So they're
would.
gonna all be.
Now, do we open them up right before the meeting, or do
No,
we
we'll-
open them up at the meeting? and
At the
then-
meeting, we'll have an agenda item,
Okay,
and we'll open the letters at the meeting, say BLM is coming in at $80 for the wastewater PER and $250 for the three combined.
I
Probably
suspect
a little higher
they'll
than
be,
that.
I suspect they'll all be real close.
pretty close.
We'll say
They all know
they'll be
what they
competitive.
each charge.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean,
All right.
they do this
That's
everywhere
what they
they
do.
go.
But this is but a lot of times though, they've already been selected and then they submit it.
Huh.
Here, they're submitting a number to be selected.
Yeah.
That's different.
Yeah.
That's different.
Okay, is that it? We'll try this again. Meeting adjourned.
And gentlemen, I apologize for my boys.
They have been nothing but a pain in the butt.
Well,
That's all they have.
I'm sure Kelly can hear them.
Are these off?
They are now, that was.
So do we make this interesting? We all write down what our predictions are?
Kelly?
Cool.